Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dylan Taylor, and I interview professional creators so that you can learn from their mistakes and lessons, get 1 trillion subscribers, and earn $1 trillion. And today I'm sitting down with Mr. Nate Solon. Nate is a chess coach, he's a writer, and an FM, which is a FIDE Master. And if you have no idea what that means, there are only about 9,000 FIDE Masters in the world, which means Nate is in the top 0.3% of all chess players on the planet, which is quite good. Nate writes the Zwischenzug newsletter. He's also built a nice hefty Twitter audience. He's made a few Chessable courses, and he's even written a chess book. And in all of his chess content, he uses his data science background to help intermediate chess players like myself study and improve at the game. And in this conversation, we discuss how Nate revived his chess career after a very long hiatus, how Nate grew an audience through long-form writing in a world of video content, Nate's sales funnel for getting chess coaching students, how Nate actually builds Chessable courses, why Nate started and then closed down a paid community, and at the very end of the conversation, Nate and I play a quick Blitz game. I really enjoyed talking to Nate. I had to sit on my hands a few times to not just talk about chess the entire time, but if you are a creator and you want to leverage emails and long-form articles to build your business, or if you just like chess and you want to hear from a top professional, then I think you're going to love this conversation. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mr. Nate Solon. Mr. Nate, I want to dive very deep into your creator career today, but I would love to know, especially for those listening who are less familiar with chess and the world of chess and how it works, climbing the rating ladder and just moving up professionally. Can you give me a brief timeline of your chess career, and then we can pivot later into how you became a creator in the chess world?
Yeah, for sure. I started playing, I think it was in third grade. I learned at the same time as my dad. A lot of people might learn from their dads, but neither of us knew how to play chess. But we got like a chess set that had instructions. I think I was always really into games. So like, checkers, Chinese checkers, played all sorts of games growing up. But once I discovered chess, I got really into it. So started going to the chess. I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. There was a local chess club there. Started hanging out there, started going to tournaments. And it sort of just became like the main thing I was doing. So I played a lot through school. Like, in middle school, I was going to like all these national competitions and stuff. Played a lot through high school. I won, I think like the national championship for like 8th and 9th grade. Sort of started getting out of it like around college, just interested in other stuff, like started playing a lot less. I was actually an English major in college, so that was like a totally different thing. After doing, I was kind of burned out from like the whole academic side of things. I ended up playing poker for a while, like, for a living. So that was a path that at that time a lot of chess players went down, because for a period of time, like if you were good at games and you knew how to learn a game, poker was a pretty good opportunity. I kind of got into it even late, like after it had dried up somewhat, but it certainly, so I did that for a while. It was getting harder. There was, if anyone knows poker, there's this whole Black Friday thing where like the US Department of Justice sort of cracked down on some of the online sites that made it a lot harder to play. So I got out of that. I kind of taught myself how to like data science, and I became a data scientist at a startup for a few years. Then just, getting up to the present in the last few years, just in the past few years, right around the same time, I got laid off from a job. My wife and I had 2 kids, which was like sort of part of the plan, that like I wanted to spend a lot of time with the kids when they were young. So partly by plan and partly kind of by accident, just the past like 2 or 3 years, I kind of returned to chess as a content creator and coach. And so I spend a lot of time with my kids, but also what I do for work these days is chess coaching, writing. I've got a newsletter, I've got a book, creating courses. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I had this period when I was a kid, when I was really into chess as a competitor, got out of it for a while, and now I'm in it primarily as a coach and a content creator, although I try to compete a little bit as well, just to sort of stay in touch with the feeling of that and not get too far away from what it really feels like to compete as well.
Yeah, and I think someone who just listened to that very nutshell timeline would hear, "Oh, okay, this guy has liked chess throughout his life." But you're an FM, you're a FIDE master. That is a very professional level that most people do not get to. It kind of seems like you breezed right past that. What does it actually take to become a FIDE master? Because again, a lot of people will be listening to this and not really know the ladder of chess.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, I mean, I think, master, it is in the chess world, it's nice to be able to say you're a master because that is, it has a nice ring to it. And even if people don't know chess, I think they're like, oh, well, like that must be good. Um, FIDE master. So FIDE is the international chess governing body. It stands for, it's like in French, it's like Fédération Internationale des Échecs or something like that. But FIDE, FIDE. So FIDE master just means like you are ranked as a master in the international body, which is there are also national federations. So the United States is USCF. Generally, it's somewhat harder to be a FIDE master than a USCF master. And then as far as like the grand scale of things, it's really hard to become a master. Like the vast majority of chess players are not masters. One level up from that is international master, and then the highest rank you can achieve is grandmaster, which is another level up from that. So I was, in terms of I was thinking about this in terms of like a sports analogy. I would say like a master is like roughly like a Division I college athlete in the United States. So it's like, you're quite a serious player. Like if you went to a pickup game, if you're playing with casuals, you're definitely going to stand out. And a grandmaster would be like you're in the NBA, like you're one of the elite players in the world. So that's sort of like the broad, there's a lot of levels in chess, and it's sort of wherever you're at, unless you're like Magnus Carlsen, there's someone way below you and there's someone way above you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that analogy a lot. And it's funny because I love chess. It's one of the reasons I was thrilled to have this conversation. And I went to my Tuesday night chess club last night, and I tend to more often than not mop the floor with, I would say, 9 out of 10 people at the chess club. But then it's always so fascinating and humbling, I guess, with any skill, to sit down and realize the real levels of this. Like, I play a person who is not ranked at all, but a few hundred elo above me, and then they destroy me, and then that person plays an FM and gets destroyed, and FM plays an IM and gets destroyed, and IM plays a GM and gets destroyed, and it's just like this never-ending. I don't know, this never-ending. It just feels like what you just said. There's always people significantly worse and significantly better than you, and it kind of makes anything like this worthwhile, right? Like you never quite want to be at the absolute top. Well, I'm sure Magnus is having fun up there, but
Although
I think it's
not
what keeps
really.
it
I mean,
spicy.
he walked away from the world championship because it was
Yeah,
too stressful. So,
yeah,
I think there's kind of two different ladders too. I would say for like casual players, and then if you're gonna approach it more seriously, because what people often, when people find out I play chess, you probably get this too. Is like very often people will be like, "Oh, my dad's really good at chess," or like, "Oh, my uncle's really good at chess." And I mean, sometimes it's like coincidence, like, "Oh, their dad's a master," like actually, but very often what they mean by that is like, yeah, when we play at the holidays, like my dad tends to win. But if you're not online, if you're not, there's like tremendous tools for improving at chess now online and stuff. So it's like if all you've played is casually within your family and you're not playing online and you're not studying in a structured way, you might be the best player in your family, but there's like a completely different, it's like you might be the best ping pong player in your family, but like if you play against an Olympian, you're going to lose 21-0, So it's a different thing.
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny you brought that up because I've had, I am an absolute amateur player. I think on chess.com I am just under 1900, which I think is, I'm advanced. I feel
I mean,
strong. I feel
that's
good.
way above 50th. I don't know what percentile that is for chess.com, but certainly
It's
well above
99.5 or
average
something.
of the people who have chess.com accounts.
Sure, sure. And I appreciate that. I was fishing for compliments, Nate. I
Yeah.
appreciate the compliments. I'll take more. But when I tell you're kind of bringing up people who again have no context for it, and I'll sort of share that, or I'll play, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like, do you think you'll be a grandmaster one day?" To which you accurately put, it would be like, oh, you play pickup basketball. That's awesome. Like, do you think you'll make it in the NBA one day? It's just like,
Yeah, like
no.
starting as an adult.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I I didn't actually know that you started your real content career over these last few years, but I am curious as to why you started that in the first place. Like, why not just, oh, I got laid off, wanted to spend more time with the kids. Why not just get back into chess and in an individual level? What made you start posting content about it?
Yeah, for me it really started with the newsletter, and that's probably like still the thing I'm best known for in the chess world. So I had this newsletter on Substack called Zwischenzug, which I don't actually say right, but anyway, that's a chess term. It's German for in between move. So it's like a chess tactic. It means in the middle of sort of of an expected sequence, you insert an unexpected move. So that's the concept of the blog base. Is it's like a different perspective. It's something unexpected. It's not like the conventional wisdom. But I started writing that initially just because I just had like a few ideas of just ideas that I had that I wanted to write about. And I was an English major, so I kind of like writing. I have a background in writing, so I just started because I'm like, oh, like I want to explore this idea, and I'll just, Substack seems pretty easy to set up, so I'll just kind of put it out there. So I didn't have any sort of grand plan of like, I'm going to become a content creator and this is going to become my job. But I was just doing that and sort of like accidentally, gradually building up a little bit of an audience. As far as, why do it? I would say it was just something that I could do, like that was like flexible in my own schedule, on my own schedule, where I could make a little money or even like decent, not get rich, but just like potentially, given the chess background I had, charge like, make more money than if I was just going to try to get into like some completely new field, totally raw.
What was making money at that stage?
Yeah, just doing probably like coaching is sort of the most direct thing, because that you can always do that sort of as many hours as you want, assuming you can attract clients, and it's just like a very direct like one-to-one, like you do this many hours, you get paid your hourly rate, right? I mean, the newsletter was not, it's almost like embarrassing to like think about like how many words I wrote without making any money at all from that newsletter. And I added I do have like a paid subscription level, but that doesn't really make any, like I added that, but I found it's very hard to get people to upgrade to paid, and so I don't even really advertise that at all anymore. I kind of wish I just kept it completely free, because the things that actually make money are totally different things. So the newsletter is mostly somewhere where I provide free value, and then like occasionally I try to sell a course, or someone might be interested in signing up for coaching. But yeah, sort of like coaching is the first thing, and then at some point I started doing these Chessable courses, which, yeah, people, if you're not a chess player, you probably haven't heard of this, but Chessable is this website that's like essentially like a Duolingo for chess. It's like a chess learning platform. It uses spaced repetition training, which is like what Duolingo, where essentially it's going to like quiz you at things at these fixed intervals. So I started creating courses on there on openings, which is, yeah, again, there's going to be like a lot of chess background knowledge. So essentially in chess, right, you've got the opening, the middle game, and the end game. And people really, really love the opening, for a few reasons. It's like, it's something that's relatively easy to study, because you can not know anything, and then you go in and learn some variations, and it's fairly direct, and it's like at the beginning of the day, I didn't know this, now I know it, kind of straightforward. Whereas trying to improve it might be like changing your thought patterns in ways that are kind of subtle and hard to measure. And it's also a part of the game that people kind of use it to like express their style and their identity, because there's a million different openings. They like, they have names. There's like the Sicilian defense, the orangutan, they have these names, and each one sort of has its own like identity. So people like to sort of identify themselves as chess players, like which openings they use. So I have these openings courses on Chessable that make some money now as well.
So one-on-one chess coaching and Chessable courses. So basically like an info product that is scalable. You put in effort and make this thing one time, and people can buy it while you're sleeping. People can buy it hopefully as long as the Chessable.com makes it available to people. I would actually love to double click on that and learn a little bit more about what it takes to put a Chessable course together. I'm sure breaking down the principles of putting any course together, but like Chessable, for example, do you have to be do you have to have notoriety or credibility as a chess player to, like, could I, this Dillan Joe Schmo, go on Chessable and make my own how to lose at Chessable course? What does it actually take to make one? And then I would love to get into your own individual process for, I don't know, outlining it, scripting it, and then putting the course materials together to upload it.
Yeah, for sure. So you can. Anyone can make one. Like, you can go make a course right now. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. The tricky thing is then, can you get anyone to buy that course? Right? So it does help if you have some notoriety. So, there are courses by like top grandmasters who are like among the best chess players in the world. And also now some of the top creators like, Levy Rosman or like the Botez sisters have courses. So, even if you're not a big chess player, you might have seen that like they have YouTube channels that are huge by like almost any standard at this point. So yeah, anyone can make one. But the trick is, how are you going to get eyeballs on it? Like, why are people going to buy your course instead of someone else's course? So certainly it helps to have like an existing audience or a reputation as a chess player. But there are examples of people, just like community members on Chessable who have like built up a following just because like, they do great work and they make these courses that people try and they find they're like very helpful. I mean, one thing about chess and chess coaching is that the best coach for you is not necessarily the best player you can access, right? Because like a grandmaster is going to have this otherworldly chess skill, but they're not necessarily going to be like a skilled coach or communicator. And their skill might even be, I think like in learning theory, this is called the curse of knowledge. It's like, if you're too good, if you know too much, it can be really hard to get on the wavelength of someone who's starting. So if you're like a beginner, intermediate player, the things you're actually like, it's going to be very hard for a grandmaster, unless they've really trained themselves, as a coach, to understand like what you're actually struggling with and communicate. So actually, I think a lot of the like really great courses on Chessable, like especially for more beginning type players, might be created by people who aren't master. Maybe they're like a 2000 rating, which is, they certainly know like a lot more about chess than the average person, but they're also not like top flight professional chess competitors. But they are really good teachers, and they have like a good way of explaining things and great examples and stuff like that.
I think that's a really useful takeaway, whether you're making chess courses or anything else, of like, I don't have to be the best in the world at this, but can I be good on camera? Can I be a good teacher? Can I be articulate? Can I distill lessons down into concise, articulate bits in a way that, I mean, something like you did earlier, where it's like, to someone who doesn't know, what is the chess ladder like? Oh, okay. It's like a D1 athlete versus going in the NBA. It's like, oh, okay. I now immediately understand like what that is like. You were able to sort of bridge the gap between me not knowing this thing and me knowing this thing. And I think Magnus Carlsen himself, who's the best, number one chess player in the world, he's like, yeah, you should never, like, no one wants to be taught by me. Like, I'm not good at teaching chess. I understand the game very well, almost intuitively well. I can't even really explain how or why I know certain things, as opposed to someone like you mentioned, Gotham Chess, Levy Rosman, who has made his entire career in his skill of, he's a world-class chess player, but like his main, I think where he shines is his ability to translate the language of chess to the masses. And obviously his audience and his following have shown just that.
Yeah. And what, I think a lot of these people who are, maybe now are really successful creators, but if you kind of dig into their backstory, often they have a background of coaching in person or in smaller groups. So I think Levy, for a while. I don't know exactly how long, but he was like teaching classes or teaching, doing like in-person coaching in New York. So he got all that experience under his belt of really interacting with chess players of all levels, and now he can use that in the way he explains things.
Yeah, I think he was hopping from like rich person's apartment to rich person's apartment in Manhattan, like, coaching their kids, trying to get them to sit still and
Yeah.
play a single opening. And I interviewed Eric Rosen, actually. He said the same thing now that you mention it. He did one-on-one chess tutoring and coaching, and then when he started to stream, he was like, all right, I'm kind of just doing the same thing, but now to a quote class of 50 viewers, or 25 concurrent viewers, but just translating that same, I'm playing the game and I'm articulating what's happening as it's happening. So yeah, the unfair advantage of coaching itself. And I guess I know that we're taking a step back here, but you said the tricky thing about really building anything, it's not just putting it together, but like, how do you get someone to buy this? How do you get someone to consume this thing, whether it's a Chessable course or anything else? How did you get eyeballs on your thing? You said that you started Zwischenzug, your Substack newsletter, but how did that grow? How did that go from 0 to 100 and then 100 to 1,000 and 1,000 to 4,000? Like, what was your main avenue for promoting, getting eyeballs, and actually getting your content, paid or free, to other people for them to consume?
Yeah, so partly, well, I mean, this is something I'm continuing to work on too, because, right, so in chess you've got these ratings, right? So like my chess rating is like 2,400, like 2,200 plus as a master, and like I tell people, like, I think when I started like a few years ago, I'd say like my business rating was like 600, like total beginner, and now so now maybe I'm like 1,200 business, maybe 1,600 on a good day. It's like I'm sort of like getting to like an intermediate maybe level of like business person. But all of which to say, like I didn't really start out with like a plan for any of this, of like, oh, here's like my acquisition strategy or whatever. I was just like writing stuff that was interesting to me about chess. So there's some growth just like organically through Substack of like, that maybe people forward those to their friends or whatever. Also for me, Twitter was like a big source of, tweeting. I was tweeting, I managed to build up a pretty good Twitter audience, send people to the newsletter from that. I've been off Twitter for like 2 months, so maybe that's something we could talk about. That's a that's a whole other, yeah.
So I'm not surprised.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not missing it, that's for sure, but whether that will cost me in the long run in terms of my business, it remains to be seen. But anyways, at least for a period of time, Twitter was certainly like a big channel for me. Like I think this is like a pretty standard model, right? Like you're on like at least like one like algorithmic social media site and you funnel that to your email list. So like for me, that was like Twitter going to my Substack. Another thing I did that's like quite specific to chess, but was like pretty successful, was I started cross-posting my newsletter posts to so the biggest chess site is chess.com. The second biggest chess site is Lichess. Actually, they're extremely different in fascinating ways, but maybe that's a little bit like more of like a deep dive into chess. But at any rate, they both have blogging platforms on the site. So I started cross-posting my newsletter posts to Lichess. Lichess was like a little bit easier to post to, and they kind of put their blog section like a lot more front and center. So that's why I started with that one. Although I should probably also try this with chess.com. But anyways, I started just cross-posting, like copy pasting my posts to Lichess. And when I started doing that, like not a lot of people were really using their blogging platform, or like not people who had big audiences. But at any given time, the top 3 blog posts were like on the absolute front page of the site. So like if you open Lichess, you could see the top 3 posts. And when I started, not that many people were doing that. So like one of my posts would always be on there. And sometimes all 3 were mine.
Wow.
So just by copy pasting to Lichess, I was able to like be on the front page of the second biggest chess platform all the time, right? And this is like a pretty big website, and obviously also this is like my customers, right? It's like if you're on this site, you are a chess player. So that actually turned out to be like an amazing strategy for me. It got a little bit harder because like with any sort of like arbitrage you figure out on the internet, right? As soon as you do it, someone notices. So a lot more people started posting. So the front page is more competitive now. But yeah, that worked super well for me. And yeah, it's probably something like, even if you're not in chess, you could like think about, like, is there some website, is there some forum that is like specialized to what I do, where, I can give myself a presence. And probably that's going to be like a lot easier, because like the more niche down you are, the more access you're going to have. Like, for example, like, to write something and have it published in the New Yorker is extremely difficult. To get something published in a chess magazine, like, if you just like email the editor of a chess magazine with like a reasonable pitch that is not crazy, like, you can probably do it. Because like the more niche down and the more specialized something is, it's like they probably don't have people like beating down there, whether it's chess or like, knitting or whatever. It's like, if you can come to someone like come into that area with something good, it's like there's probably going to be a lot less like gatekeeping to get it out there.
And I feel like even written content in general in the chess space seems to be not the norm. Like, you write longer form emails, your tweet threads, like I think your pinned tweet on your Twitter profile is like a big giant thread of you breaking down various chess openings. And I think I discovered you now a year or two ago from a tweet. I wasn't following you. It was just, it showed up on my feed because I like chess stuff, and it was one of your tweets giving just some insight on how to study better, or ways that people study incorrectly or ineffective ways. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I've never seen someone articulate chess lessons in written form in just a few paragraphs. I'm used to, again, some of the creators that we mentioned, or streamers. That's like, when I think of chess content creation, it's mostly video and mostly, it's mostly visual and video. But to see it written already, to me, and per what you just said, it seems like even that is a niche within a niche.
Yeah, and that's another thing that was really by accident. I just started writing because that was the medium I'm comfortable with. I think if you could sort of start from scratch and just pick any skills you wanted, I think YouTube's really good for chess. Just because you can have the board and you can be explaining in real time. And I do want to take another run at trying YouTube, because like, I started a while ago. I had to stop posting because like I was so overwhelmed in terms of time and projects. But I do think YouTube's a great platform for chess, but it is very crowded now, and it's harder to break into. Yeah, the sort of long form writing. Yeah, there's more, like, when I started on Substack, like, there were probably maybe only a few other people on Substack writing about chess. I see a lot more people starting Substacks now, but I mean, like anything, it's like, it's easy to write the first one. It's actually very hard to, write something every week or something. So a lot of them pop up, a lot of them drop out, but there certainly are more than there used to be. Then there's also, there's like a very old school world of like paper chess publications. That's almost like a completely different community of, there's this online community of people who are on Twitter and chess.com, and then there's maybe people who have been like writing about chess in written form for decades, and like there's some overlap between those communities, but they're pretty distinct as well.
Have you given much thought to the more traditionalists of chess, and like, do you feel like there at all is any sort of clash between the traditionalists in the chess world versus this modern take? Like, for example, I know a lot of people have been a little upset in the chess world that something like PogChamps or streamers who are not professional chess players have been making chess even more popular than it ever was when it was just the traditional chess. So I'm thinking like pre-pandemic, pre-chess boom, pre-Queen's Gambit, pre-Gotham chess, etc.
Yeah, there definitely is some tension there in the chess world. I mean, I think in any field, if you try to rock the boat and change traditions, you're going to get some pushback. But it seems like even in chess, even more so, there's some very staunch traditionalists, some old guys who've been doing it the same way for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I try not to sort of get involved in those conflicts too much. Like, one place where I see it is in terms of, we would call it like the time control, the time limit for a game. So chess, you can play with all different time limits. People might think of it as like a very thoughtful, cerebral game, but actually the most popular time limits online are extremely fast. It's like what's called bullet. So there's speed chess, and then even faster than that, there's bullet chess, where each side has 1 minute, not per move, 1 minute for the game, right? So that is extremely fast. You've got to be playing instantly, or you can online. You can even do what's called pre-moving, where you make your move before you see your opponent's move, and then when they move, your move gets executed instantly. So there's a whole skill to pre-moving, but that's extremely fast paced. And then yeah, there's Blitz, which is like 3 or 5 minutes for the game. These are super popular. Like online, those are much more popular than slower forms of chess. But then if you go to a tournament, an over the board tournament where you go in person, you compete in a tournament, it's going to be the opposite end of the spectrum. It's extremely slow. So it'll be like, sort of standard international time control is 90 minutes for the game plus an additional 30 seconds per move. So you can play one game that takes 3-4 hours or even longer. I feel like the over the board time controls are generally way too slow, at least for me, for what I would enjoy. Because even though I like chess and I want to play in these tournaments, for me to go to one, it's enormously costly, not so much in terms of money, but in terms of time and stress and like effort and preparation to go to one of these. So I
And
wish
they
there were.
last days, right?
Sorry.
They last days, right? It's not like you
Yeah,
go and
yeah.
play
So
a 1 day tournament.
I mean, there are some 1 day tournaments, but like in the United States, like a weekend or a long weekend would be typical, so 2 or 3 days. And then actually in Europe, it would even be more typical. So like in the United States, we'll play like 2 or 3 games per day, which you get the tournament done faster, but it's also incredibly grueling. Like if you don't play chess, you might not think this like it's like you're just sitting there playing a board game, but it's like, imagine taking like 5 SATs back to back to back in 2 days. And also, that when you're taking a standardized test, at least like the test is static. The test sits still. When you're playing chess, you've got an opponent who's like messing with you and trying to. Their whole job is to frustrate everything you're doing. So it's like extremely draining to do this. So I wish, for me, these over the board tournaments, instead of like 4 hours per game, like I'd be like, hey, look, we can. How about we choose a time control where it's like a 1 hour game? It's still going to be a great game, but it's not going to be so insanely brutal. But yeah, if you ever suggest to like shorten time controls, you get people coming out of the woodwork about, how it's like, oh, this is just a symptom of like attention spans shortening, and the great thing about chess is that it's slow. And there is like some truth to this. I think like, I'm sure like anyone watching this can sympathize with like it's very difficult to like stay focused in the world. Like we have all these apps and devices that are distracting, and most people want to be focused, but it's very difficult to be focused in the world. So like this is something that is like amazing and valuable about chess, is that when you go to that tournament and you're in the tournament hall, there's a bunch of people playing chess, and it's totally quiet. You're not allowed to talk. You're certainly not allowed to have your phone. You can access a level of focus that you can't normally. Like that can feel really good. Like the chess tournament it's a competition, but in a way it's also like a meditation retreat. It's like it puts you in this context where you can probably be more focused than you can in your day-to-day life, which can be really nice. But it's just so slow and so grueling that like for me, as someone with kids and who's trying to work and who's trying to accomplish all these projects, it's just very tough to make time for these tournaments.
Yeah. And what I'm getting out of this is fascinating. It's almost like this spectrum of how niche do we want this to be, right? Like if the more niche and almost exclusive this is, then the chess fundamentalists, like the way God intended or whatever, that they're happier. And then the broader we make this, now it becomes a little bit more, yeah, I mean more accessible. Yeah, I think that's the spectrum I'm seeing. Like exclusive versus accessible, and what's the proper mix between the two of that? Because like any person who has only played chess twice is like, oh sure, like a 2 hour Blitz tournament, sure, I'll go play that. Meanwhile, they're very unlikely to play a 2 day tournament where it's 2-3 very long stressful chess games a day. And I think for extra context, I've played in one, I think, yeah, just one classical tournament in chess, and it was a single day. I played 3 games. They each lasted like between 2 and 3 hours. I lost all 3 games, and all 3 of them made it into the end game. And so I'm in this giant building of a bunch of people, just people on every single table playing games, and I think for two of the three, my game was the last one. Everyone is completely done and finished and walking around, and they're like talking. So that's the most annoying thing in the world. And I lost all three games, and I don't think I've ever been more like emotionally dejected and exhausted in my entire life. And that was I almost gave up chess after that day. It
Yeah.
was so it was so painful emotionally.
It really is. These long classical games are so punishing, because another thing about chess that's so brutal is you can really pay for your mistakes for a long time. Like, you might make one careless move and then you're in a crappy position that you have to defend for hours. Whereas, like, in tennis, let's say you make a bad shot, when you get to serve the next point, like, you're still playing normal tennis. Like, you don't have to play like a crappy version of tennis for the next 2 hours. But in chess, you kind of do. And if you might defend and defend and defend and then finally lose, and then you end up with 0 points for that game, which is exactly the same as you would have gotten if you blundered in the opening and lost in 10 minutes. So it's really it's like psychologically like an extremely punishing game, because you put so much into the game over many hours, and then one mistake, can throw it all away.
And so we're diving into again more chess knowledge, and that makes me think of how you serve your audience, right? Your readers, the people who follow you, and I'm curious because um, it says here on your Zwischenzug, like where people can go and the landing page to subscribe to your newsletter. It says chess improvement insights backed by data, and I'm curious, as you have spent more and more time creating this and sharing your chess insights with your readers, how defined is your avatar, so to speak, like the people that you're trying to reach, either by audience, but then also sort of at the bottom of funnel, like potential one-on-one clients for you. So how you kind of started this whole thing not really with some master plan. You started, I think you said you were a 600 elo at business, but as you have raised your business elo, how much clearer has your avatar and the people that you're trying to reach become? And basically, yeah, like who do you serve?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's become a lot clearer, largely organically, just by in terms of who ends up subscribing to the newsletter, who I hear from, and then I kind of try to double down on that by then making things still be valuable for those people. So I'd say for me, most it's primarily adults, which is like, as a coach, there's sort of a whole other route you can go down of coaching kids. It's like there's a lot of kids who are very serious about chess. And I do have some kids that I coach, but like my business is like more so coaching adults. And I would say mostly like intermediate players. So not people who are truly beginners, who are just starting. Because I mean, I wouldn't necessarily like turn someone away. Like it's not like, oh, you have to be this good or I won't work with you. Because what's fascinating for me about it is to like try to get inside someone's head and say like, okay, what's blocking you right now? What's the next step, right? What experiments can we try? What can we practice that's going to be helpful? So like I find that process really interesting at any level. But if someone's truly a beginner and they're just starting at chess, there's probably a lot of low hanging fruit. They might not really need a coach at this point, or like they could definitely like find a coach who would probably help them, who is not going to charge as much as I would. And then at the other end of like people who are like full-time chess professionals, they might be working with like a grandmaster or something if they have a coach. So most of the people I work with are kind of in the middle of like, they're not beginners. They already know like quite a bit about chess, but they may have reached like a plateau, or they may have found they're blocked on something they've kind of got as far as they can on their own, and they want some way to get unstuck. It tends to be like successful professionals, not chess professionals, but I mean like a very high percentage of my readers, the people who sign up for my stuff, seem to be programmers or, engineers, developers. So, and some other stuff. But yeah, I would say a lot of people who are maybe like very broadly in the same boat as me, which is they're adults. They have, they have jobs, they have kids, they have a lot of other responsibilities, but they're passionate about chess, and they want to, it's like, how do I work on chess in a way that's efficient and it, like, that is actually going to work to let me improve.
What was the chess gym?
Oh yeah, this was something I started last year. So it's essentially a chess community which I started with my friend Martin Eustason, who also writes a newsletter and writes chess books and stuff. So the idea was to create a community that would kind of put into practice a lot of like this chess training stuff that I had developed as a coach over the years. So we did launch that. I guess to sort of cut to the end, I ended up shutting it down just because I think it was really helpful in terms of chess improvement for the people who did it. But the way I set it up turned to be, it was just like a massive continuous workload for Martin and me, and just like for the number of people who were doing it and the amount of money it was bringing in, it just wasn't really possible for us to maintain. So I mean, this is definitely an example of like starting out, being like pretty naive about a lot of aspects of business. I certainly thought a lot about how can we make this so that it's going to really help people improve their chess. But with hindsight, I didn't think nearly enough about like, what is the lift for me? Like, how much time do I have to put in to keep this going? Like, how can I make this sustainable? I didn't think enough about that stuff. And ultimately, it wasn't really sustainable in the form we created it.
So paid community for people who want to improve their chess. And when you started it, you're kind of talking about this inverse relationship between how enticing is this versus how executable or deliverable is this. Mm-hmm. So like push to the extreme, being able to do a 3-hour one-on-one session with you, Nate, every single day, that would be heavily enticing. You would be able to sell that for significantly more than anything else. But I mean, that would be horribly unrealistic and just a bad business practice for you and your time and your goals and your family and the life that you would want to live. Likewise, you charging someone to read one of your tweets, very easy lift on your end, but just not at all enticing for someone who's like, what, I got to pay $20 to read one of his tweets. And so finding that middle ground of like, what is enticing and also is completely, as you put it, sustainable. And so with the lessons that you gained from starting and then closing up that paid community, if you had to start it again, whether it's the chess gym sort of as you originally intended or something else entirely, with what you know now, what would you do differently?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things that made it really unsustainable was we had this puzzle of the day. So like a chess puzzle, a chess position that you had to solve. That turned out to be really difficult to keep going, actually, because if you're actually creating those on demand, you have to find a position and annotate it every day. And then we even had 2 levels. We had like an easy one and a hard one. So it's like that's actually doubles the workload right there. But again, I didn't like fully think that through. So if I had to say like the single thing that really made it unsustainable, it would be that puzzle of the day. So say either not do that, or there are if you're willing to take puzzles from another source, like for example on Lichess, they have a huge puzzle database that's just generated from games that are played on the site. So you could use something like that, and that's like generated completely like programmatically, like no, that's just code. That's not a human. So you could use something like that, but they may not be as like instructive or as insightful as like a human generated puzzle. So that's kind of a trade-off. I think, I don't know exactly how I would do it, but I think there's something to be said for like having a program, or like courses or sort of a learning path that people can follow independently, and maybe you're available for help, as opposed to like you're available for everything. It's like there's a path that people can follow, and then you step in maybe to like course correct or give some individual attention. I think that's kind of broadly the model. There's a site called Chessmood that is doing something similar to what Chess Gym does, but has been around for longer. And I think that's kind of the model. They have like courses on the site, and you can get like there's a few grandmasters associated with that site, and you can get coaching from a grandmaster, but that's obviously going to be a much higher price point, and that's going to be more like, okay, maybe you're stuck on this step, let me come in and give you some insights, but you're following a program. There's also like another site in that space is Chess Dojo, like similar idea. There's like a curriculum, there's all these activities you're supposed to be doing. Maybe like the people running it like could be accessible for feedback sometimes, but it's not like you wouldn't expect to have FaceTime with them like every day or anything like that.
It's much more asynchronous.
Yeah.
So the main difference would just be less lift, less demanding daily time on your end as the creator.
Yeah. And then the thing about that though is that, you have to invest the time up front to build out those courses or programs. So it's like once you have those, that's fantastic. But you got to create those, and obviously they have to be high quality.
Which reminds me, I mentioned it earlier, but we didn't get into it. What is your step-by-step process in putting together a Chessable course?
Oh yeah, yeah. I sort of forgot to get to that part of it, but yeah, no, that's a great question. So the courses I have out currently are all on the opening. So they're teaching you to play a certain opening repertoire, which you can make a Chessable course about anything, but those are the ones that I currently have. That's a phase of the game people are interested in, and it's also something I really enjoy, and I think I'm good at doing that type of preparation, so it works well. So my process for creating those is, I'll come up with an idea for the opening I want to cover. I actually don't use something a lot of players might do is take an opening they already play or that they specialize in and make a course on it. That's actually not how I create my, or at least that's not how I've done the courses so far. They're targeted at this kind of demographic we talked to of an intermediate, in chess we might call this a club player or an amateur player. So someone who's not a beginner but not a professional, but someone who's going to the chess club on a regular basis. So they're created with that level of player in mind. And this is also where some of the data comes in. Lichess has a database of all the games that are played on the site. And you can search it and look at the stats. So often I'll start with that and be at this level that I'm targeting, what openings are really effective. And then you also have to think about the longer Chessable has been around, there's more and more courses on the platform. It's more crowded. So probably you don't want to do an opening that 20 people have already covered. So I think about that as well. So essentially, I try to find something that performs really well in practice in the statistics at the level I care about, and maybe something that is under the radar. And those two things often go hand in hand because there is some real surprise value of you play something that is uncommon, you catch your opponent off guard, they don't know how to react. So it often starts with that. And then I'll start, sort of building out the repertoire. So I'll look at the stats. I'll also look at the Masters database. So there's kind of two different databases. There's the online database, which is a huge number of games played by ordinary people. And then there's also a database of Grandmaster games played in over the board tournaments. So combining those is really powerful because the online database, you see what people actually play in practice. The master database, you see what the best moves are. So you can kind of use the online database to see what the opponent is likely to play. Then you go back to the master database and you see okay, here's how I defeat that. And then the third part is what we call the chess engine, which is just, a chess, you could call it a chess AI if you want to, just a program that plays chess. And again, for people who don't know chess, computers are way better than humans. Even you can run a chess program on your phone that would crush Magnus Carlsen. So the computer, they don't play absolutely perfectly, but they play way, way better than humans. So when you're, obviously you're not allowed to use the computer during the game, but when you're preparing, you can use the computer to build out this preparation. So I use the engine as well. So I sort of build an outline. One thing I do is that I look at those stats and look at how often moves are played, and I create an outline of the course based on how often you'll face stuff. So it's if I have 100 total lines in the course and something occurs 3% of the time, then I know I have 3 lines to devote to that. So I have to sort of give a coherent way of handling that in at most 3 lines. Then I start playing it. Once I start working on it, I'll start playing it to get that practical experience, which is really important in chess.
And sorry, Nate, as you're building this out, what are you using? Is this all in a Google Doc? Are you making flowcharts? What's the software you use?
I do Lichess has a feature called Studies, which is a sort of chess document. So I use that a lot. There's also there's a software called Chessbase, which is for storing chess, we would call them files. So I do use that. It's a bit of a trade-off because it's really it's not the easiest software to use. It's quite glitchy and has a lot of issues, but it's quite specialized to chess, and it does it has some functionality that other things don't have. So I did bite the bullet and like move to like creating the whole course in Chessbase. I had, when I was initially mapping it out, I think I probably posted a tweet about this, but I had actually like a flow chart on a whiteboard that was like, the like Charlie from Always Sunny meme
Yeah.
of like,
Yes.
yeah, it was very much that because another, so figuring out those percentages is not that hard, but where it gets a little bit annoying is in chess we've got what's called transpositions where you can reach the same position by a different move order, which actually can get really confusing. So that part is a little tricky. But yeah, I sort of map it out. I start playing it. One thing that I just started doing for this one that I really want to do more of is so something I'm like appreciating more and more about business is if I prepare something, like if I prepare an opening and do the groundwork to really understand that and create the files, I should use that like in many different ways. So it's sort of like, I've heard the phrase like build once, like sell twice or something like that. So if I'm going to like learn this opening and create these resources from scratch, probably, I should not, I shouldn't only make a course about that. It's like I can also do a speed run on YouTube where I'm playing that. It's like that's working on multiple levels. Just like I'm promoting it, I'm getting firsthand experience that's valuable for me. I'm seeing how players of all levels react to that, which is going to make the course better. So, then maybe I make the course. Then maybe I also make a book based on that material. Maybe I do like a live cohort where I teach the material, right? So it's like this is something I'm working on of like once you've invested the time to like create these resources and develop this expertise, I think you really should leverage that in as many ways as you can. So it's like I think that's something I can do more of.
Yeah, I love that question of what's the sawdust here, right? They were shipping off lumber for years and years and just throwing away the sawdust until someone was like, wait, like, could we do something with this? And then boom, this thing that had just been trashed for forever now gets sold for a profit.
And
And
by the way,
everything.
this is something that's valuable about one-on-one coaching too, because you might say like one-on-one coaching doesn't scale, which in a sense it doesn't. So like if I imagine like the ideal place for my chess coaching business in 5 years or something, it's not like oh I built now I have 40 hours a week of one-on-one coaching. 'Cause it's like that's going to be unsustainable and incredibly draining. But also it's probably not 0 hours a week either, because like what I get from this one-on-one coaching, it's not just like whatever my hourly is, but it's also I'm seeing like what people are struggling with and like where they make mistakes, like where their thought process breaks down, and that becomes the ideas for the courses or the books or whatever. So like someone I follow is like Nathan Barry from it's just called Kit now, right? It's like previously ConvertKit, but he has this idea of flywheels. So I sort of sketched out a flywheel of I do I do a one-on-one coaching session where often we'll review their games. I capture the most interesting or challenging positions, right? Save those in Chessbase. Then once a week, I'll go back and review those positions and like annotate them, and sort of flesh out the variations, like write commentary. So then I've got like exercises that I can show other students. But then also like, to use your term, the sawdust of that is I'm building out this sort of library of like these chess exercises or examples, which like I know these are challenging. I know they're helpful because we've gone through them in these one-on-one sessions. So then at some point you get enough of those, you sort of group them together by theme or whatever it is, then you have a course or a book, right? Whereas if you go the other way to like, you have an idea for a book and you're just trying to find like hundreds of examples of this theme on demand, it's enormously time consuming. It's really, really hard to do.
Yeah, I love it. I love that idea. And yeah, the idea is that one just consistently leads to the next in this flywheel or in this never ending cycle. So you work with coaching clients and then you could take like a photo of the board of one of their games that you analyzed with them, and then that becomes an email or inspires an email, and you can say, hey, last week I was working with one of my clients about this position, and then not only does that give you content, but then your audience, the readers, are like, oh yeah, Nate does do coaching. Oh yeah, like this did teach me something. And then, okay, maybe that increases the conversion rate of people who do become your coaching clients, which then gives you more stories and more content to pull from. And again, this flywheel, we do
Yeah, that's
something.
no,
Yeah,
that's a great point about like posts or newsletters as well, because right, I'm trying to make this all more efficient because like to write a newsletter post every week is not that easy. But one thing I found is like if I have a position to talk about or react to, like a chess position, it's a lot because like I mean I've been playing all chess all my life, so it's like if there's a chess position on the board, like I have things to say about that. That's not hard. So what I found is like if I sort of have a skeleton of a game or a position that I want to talk to, then that's kind of an unlimited stream of content that's like pretty easy for me to create. Whereas if I'm trying to just come up with some entirely new idea, like with no specific chess example to sort of hang it on, I mean that can be interesting, that can be kind of fun to write, but that's probably like a much more time consuming project.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think especially in the educational space, one of the best ways to come up with ideas is just look at your calendar. What did I do this last week? What conversations did I have? What came of those conversations? What were the topics of those conversations? I think it works very well in business. I mean, we do something very similar here in Grindstone, where most of the newsletters, it's called Creator Cheat Codes, which is just 60-second tips that are very practical and creators can use immediately to level up their content, make more money online. But it comes from, well, I just did a session with one of our clients on Wednesday. This was what we talked about. Okay, great. He was going through this. I assume other creators are going through this. Let me just share what happened. And then, if you want help with this same problem that this creator did, here, boom, link to Grindstone or something like that, and so on and so forth, this flywheel. So that's a little bit of our sawdust.
Yeah, for sure. And I've heard similar advice about Twitter of like, don't try to like write cool tweets, like do cool stuff and then just tweet about it. So I'm actually not tweeting at all right now, but when I prefer the model of like do cool stuff and document it than to try to be like a professional Twitter writer.
Yeah, yeah, or how I content versus how to content, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not up on a ledge professing or preaching. It's just like, hey, here's, I became a FIDE master in chess. Here's how I did it. And here's my story. Here was my step by step. And maybe that's a bad example because you are very well poised to teach, step by steps and guides. But like, maybe I would be a better example. Like, I can't make a video on how to become a 2400 in chess because I've never done that. I have no idea how to do that. But I can say how I got to 1900. Right? I'm not professing myself to be an authority or an expert. But I can just say, hey, I'm an idiot. Here's how this idiot got a little bit better at chess. And people can't argue with that because I'm just like, nah, this is what happened. You can go see my chess.com account. This is how I'm not saying it's the best way, but this is what I did.
Yeah, and by the way, when I was trying to do YouTube, I was studying it a little bit to try to understand like what works well, how do you grow a channel? And that what you just said was actually like one of the biggest things is when you find a video like on a lesser known chess channel that like really outperformed the size of that channel. Very often it was like personal journey, So I've seen several channels like many where it was like people are like doing this chess content and just banging it out day after day and no one's really watching it, and then like the video that would really hit for them would very often be like how I did. It seems to also be really powerful if you tie it to a specific number. It's like how I got to 2000 or whatever. Those often were like that was the one where it's like people are getting like 100 views, 100 views, 100 views, and then that one was like 100,000 or whatever. It was the personal journey.
Yeah, it's a hero's journey, and people feel really connected to, I don't know, underdog hero stories, hero journeys. I think for that very reason, like you don't even have to be good at anything. You can just kind of see, and I think people respect effort. That's a big thing. Like that's universal. It's not something else I've seen is like I did 2,000 cold calls. Here's what I learned. It's like you don't even know how good I am at sales, but like I put in this massive amount of effort that you are probably unwilling to put in. here are my takeaways. You're like, wow, okay, there's just this natural respect of, okay, you went on this journey. Good for you. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, and that's also, like we were talking about, like the best coach for you might not be a grandmaster. Sort of the same thing. Like I think I heard this in Fast AI, which it's like an AI course that I took a while ago. But it's like they really encourage everyone to like blog and document their experience, and they say like you're the best teacher for someone who's 6 months behind where you are right now. So like often people are like really scared to put stuff out there. It's like, well, I'm not like a worldwide expert, but it's like, well, like by virtue of where you are right now, there's someone who you're at the perfect level to teach them.
Yeah. Yeah. And somewhere right now there are children who don't even know how the pieces move, and I can help them play chess because I'm just barely ahead of their skill level. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think you're selling yourself a little bit short. Yeah, maybe, maybe the adult who's, you could be the teacher for like whatever, someone who's 1400, 1600. Actually, by the way, I think coaching is like really underrated, even in chess, but like in everything. Yeah, I think chess can be kind of like gatekeepery, but I think people who aren't like masters or aren't even like super strong chess players could be really like good coaches, just of that concept of like, okay, you're a little bit behind me, or even I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but like performance coach, like chess is like still in the chess world, very few people really take performance seriously. So a lot of people, a lot of chess players could probably be helped by someone who doesn't even play chess, but it's like, here's how like you eat properly, like here's how you ensure that like you sleep before the tournament, like here's how you create a pregame ritual. So there's a lot of different ways to come at it.
Yeah. 100%, man. We're coming to the end of our time here, and I knew I would love this conversation, and I absolutely have. I wanted to ask you a fun little question at the end, but before I do, I will link to your newsletter and your Twitter account that you have completely abandoned and laid to the wayside as you have gone off grid. You have your winter hat on, your burly beard. You're clearly hiding away from all of us in your log cabin up in the mountains. What else where can I point people to in the description of this conversation where you want people to check you out?
Yeah, I mean, I do have those Chessable courses, so like you can go to my Chessable author page. If you're a chess player and you want to work on your openings, I've got two. I'm working on the third one, which is gonna complete this full repertoire for both colors. So hopefully the third one will be out soon. But the first two are certainly available. And yeah, I do also do coaching. So like if you really want to dig into your chess and like get a deeper picture of like your strengths and weaknesses and build out a study plan, people can check out like my personal page with I've got a short application form if you're interested in coaching. So yeah, those are the main things right now.
Awesome. Then I will link to all of those below. And at the end of this conversation, you can feel free to decline this, Nate. But I was wondering if you'd be down to play a quick Blitz game with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was wondering what was it. Yeah, so this wasn't like sent in advance. So I was like, what's it going to be? But okay, sure, let's try. I mean, I hope I win. If I lose, this is going to, I don't know, is this going to like undercut?
If I win, then I probably won't post it. Should we play on Lichess?
Sure. All right, I'm sending you a challenge.
Okay. Oh boy. All right, I'm nervous.
Okay. Hey, good luck.
Good luck, sir.
All right, I've been playing this is not my course. This is something different, but I've been playing the Trompowski recently.
Okay.
Let's see, what do I do against this? Probably this.
Resign. My heart is racing. It's a very different feeling playing not only a titled player, but a titled player while it's recording.
I actually had this line in one of my recent over-the-board tournaments. I had a position similar to this, but my opponent recaptured with a G pawn rather than the E pawn, which is in fact you made the superior move. So well done.
Interesting. I think online I typically recapture with the G pawn, but I've never once looked at the Trumpowski as black. I think I really just wing it each time.
See, that's the idea. It's the value of surprise.
I know this is Levy's one of his favorite openings.
Yeah, Levy's a big Trompowsky guy. That's right. Maybe I should play. I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I'm making much headway on the board. At least I have a little advantage on the clock. Maybe that'll be worth something.
Yeah, I played actually per your advice. I used chess tournaments to as an excuse to travel
Mm-hmm.
when I was in Europe, and I played a 3-2 tournament in Warsaw, Poland, over the summer last year, and it was an open tournament. I think there were like 10 to 15 grandmasters, and I mean I got destroyed by, I mean, women, children, everybody, and man, 3-2 over the board is significantly harder than
Yeah, because you
being
have to
able to play
actually
online.
reach and move the pieces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by the another thing people who don't play chess might think it's easier to play a kid, but actually when you get matched up against a kid in chess, that's when you have to really be scared. It's when you get paired against an old guy that you're kind of feeling like you might have an easier game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Whew. That one I'm ready for.
I hear your dogs in the background.
That's actually my my kid going to
Oh,
that's my toddler.
well, I'm so sorry. Oh my god, that bishop. Yeah, this is falling. This is crumbling pretty quickly. Oh my god. Ay, ay, ay.
Ooh, it was touch and go for a while there.
Yeah. Ah. All right. Well
All
done,
right,
sir.
good game.
Good game indeed. You
Yeah,
live to fight another day.
it was totally even right up until around move 20, but I think yeah, maybe the clock pressure started to play in my favor.
Yeah, I think I shut off any idea of what you wanted to do or what was even possible. I didn't even realize my B pawn was hanging, and I think that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, this is big challenge for chess players of all levels, including myself, is understand thinking about the opponent's ideas, right? Where most of us
Hmm.
we're more interested in our own ideas, but then
I'm very interested in my own ideas.
yeah,
They're my favorite ideas.
exactly. Unfortunately, in chess, your opponent gets to play half of the moves, which is very unfair.
So I'm looking at move 20. So with queen takes b7, if I went bishop back to d8, I mean that's what do you think about that?
To defend your c pawn.
To defend the pawn and then threatening bishop takes knight on the edge.
Yeah, yeah. So then I'd probably just go ahead and take your bishop on g6,
Ah,
so you can't take that knight.
right, right.
And then I would still be up a pawn,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I can take the a6 pawn too.
Yep, yep. What is it? Here it's. Oh yeah, it's
Well,
plus
there may have
plus
been
three
one
for me.
moment when you could have set when I played h3 on move 14. Um,
Mm.
Perhaps you could have sacrificed your bishop there, and I'm not sure
Mm.
if that actually looks pretty dangerous. And then your queen comes in, and I'm a little bit stuck because I can't move my knight away, or you'll checkmate me.
Yep.
Mm, so yeah, I don't know. After I put, I thought I had that under control, and then I was sort of thinking about that, and I was like, I don't have that under control, so I don't know what I would have done here. Maybe I wouldn't even
Mm.
have taken on h3, but then you did a free pawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is interesting. And then maybe I don't know, move the f pawn up, set up some sort of rook lift.
Yeah, well, so if it was your move, you can force a draw if you want by checking with your
Yeah,
queen.
yeah.
But if you want to win, yeah, you have to try to bring a rook over, or maybe you can start pushing your g pawn up and try to chase my knight away.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. I know I shouldn't use the engine, but engine says that white is
Yeah.
still winning here, about +1.
Well, I mean, this is like I guess one of my chess hot takes is like Blitz is good and the engine is good basically, but you got to know how to use them.
Of course, yeah, yeah. It's just it's the sweet temptress
Yeah.
of this little button here, turning on to see whatever the best move is. But that's fun, man. Thank you for the game.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you yeah, for doing the interview. Yeah. Hopefully people like it.
I've been saying that with every piece of content I've ever put
Yeah.
out. Oh man, I hope people like this. I don't know if they
I
do,
try to
but
do like post and ghost, but easier said than done, right?
yes, yes, indeed. Well, um, I like I said before, man. I really enjoyed this conversation. I love reading your stuff. You've helped me improve my chess. You've helped me get out there more and play in more tournaments. And um, this was great. Thanks for chatting and thanks for the game, man. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch, but yeah, great to see you.
Yeah, sounds good, bud.
All right. Have a
Cheers.
good one.